what's going on, guys, and welcome back here to another weather forecast. My name is Andrew Heischman, and for today we got ourselves a few things that we do need to be talking about here, starting off with the satellite and radar, which we'll get into here in a few moments, following the Storm Prediction Center outlook, taking a look at the potential for thunderstorm activity. Following that, we'll take a look at those rainfall accumulations, as we are expecting a pretty good amount of rainfall in some areas here. Then we'll be diving into the WPC flooding outlooks here. Following that, we'll be taking a look at the Climate Prediction Center, basically just taking a look at the weather expectancy over the next couple of weeks. Then we'll be diving into the models, taking a look at those individual storm systems and whatnot. Now, guys, if you are new to the channel here, first of all, welcome. Good to have you all here. And guys, if you could, please leave a like, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That way you guys can stay up to date with everything. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into it. Alrighty, everybody, so hopping on over here into the radar here this morning, we got ourselves a bit of activity across the country here. Starting in the south, we have this storm system that's rolling through, driving a pretty good amount of rainfall across the region here. Up to the north, if you guys can see up here towards like Wisconsin, heading into Michigan, we actually do have a little bit of snowfall. Not really a whole lot of snow is expected with this system here, just, you know, driving a little bit of snowfall. Not really anything too crazy, but we do have a bit of snow this morning that is falling for you guys. Same thing up here in the northeast. We had a little bit of snow, a little bit of precipitation roll through here earlier. Now, in the Pacific Northwest, we have this really nasty type of system rolling through. That's just driving a lot of rainfall. We do have flooding potential out here, which we'll get into here in a few moments, but we do have a lot of precipitation rolling its way into the region here. Thankfully, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Eventually, here soon, this precipitation will really start to lighten up, but at least for the last little bit, it's been very wet across the region here. But generally, that's kind of what the country looks like as of right now. A lot of the central U.S. relatively clear, the mid-Atlantic relatively clear here this morning. Now, if we overlay the jet stream here, taking a look at our mid-level flow, as you guys can kind of see, we do have a little bit of a dip in the jet stream here. This is an area of low pressure that is kicking up all of this moisture and all of this activity here. In the southwest, we do have this ridge, which is, you know, keeping things relatively quiet for the most part, you know, except for the Pacific Northwest, you know, of course, with all that precipitation and whatnot. So this is our current jet stream pattern here. Basically, it's, you know, not quite zonal flow, but in terms of the current pattern here, we do have that high pressure across the west. Most of the country, believe it or not, is actually in relative high pressure here. If we take a look here at the MSLP, or the mean sea level pressure, you know, a lot of the country is in, you know, 1,020 plus millibar range here. If we go ahead and pause this here on the last scan, you guys can actually see here. I mean, across the, you know, the Tennessee Valley and whatnot, we have, you know, 1,020 plus millibar range. Actually out there in the Rockies, the pressure is actually nearly 1,030 in some regions. So across the country, we have relative high pressure, which is leading to mostly good conditions across the most of us. But that will be changing here coming up pretty shortly. Alrighty, everybody, sliding on over here into the Storm Prediction Center outlook for the next couple of days regarding the potential for severe weather and just generalized thunderstorms. The good news is that as of right now, we are not expecting any severe thunderstorm activity. However, we do have the threat for some thunderstorms over the next couple of days. So starting for today, we do have ourselves a risk for thunderstorm activity across areas of eastern Texas, including the Houston area, southern Arkansas, pretty much all of Louisiana here, and a bit of southern and southwestern Mississippi, and even a little sliver of southern Alabama out there by Mobile will be possible for a few booms of thunder. In the Pacific Northwest, with all that moisture that we do have kicking off across the region here, we do have like central and western Washington state, northwestern Oregon here in the risk for thunderstorm activity. Once again, not severe thunderstorm activity, but just potential for some thunderstorms across those regions. Now for tomorrow, we do have ourselves a little bit of thunderstorm activity as well across kind of central southern Florida, and once again the Pacific Northwest towards coastal Washington state and Oregon here. We have all of that precipitation that we were tracking across, you know, areas like Louisiana and whatnot. That will be working its way over Florida, driving the potential for some thunderstorm activity here for tomorrow and a pretty good amount of rainfall accumulations for some areas. Now, working our way over here into Tuesday, as of right now, no thunderstorm activity is expected. And in the long range here, looking at the potential for severe weather, we do not have any days where severe weather is expected. So at least over the next 8 days, we do not have any active severe weather that is expected, which is definitely good news. Alrighty, everybody, so moving our way over here into the overall precipitation expectancy here across across the country. This is basically the amount of rainfall we can expect over the next 72 hours or the next 3 days. So, like we mentioned, we do have a bit of rain in the south here, a bit of precipitation throughout areas here of like Louisiana, Mississippi, working its way into Florida here for tomorrow. And, some areas could see a fairly decent amount of precipitation out here. So for the regions out by Louisiana, Mississippi, a good inch and a half or more is expected here. Some localized spots could get up to right around 2 inches or so across areas like New Orleans, or near New Orleans relatively, here in southeastern Louisiana. And you could actually see across Florida here for tomorrow, a good 1 to 2 inches of rainfall is expected across portions here of the central and southern side of Florida. Areas out by like Fort Lauderdale and Miami could see actually up to 2 or more inches across some of those regions there, with a lot of the brunt of central Florida seeing about an inch, maybe an inch and a half or so of rainfall. Now, in the Pacific Northwest, we do have ourselves a pretty good amount of precipitation out here. We are talking those upper elevations seeing a good half a foot or more. Potentially even more, like I said, of rainfall across some of those regions out there for the upper elevations of Washington State and Oregon. And of course, some of those coastal areas here, possibly a good, 2, maybe 3 inches or so. It's a little hard to forecast for, places with elevation, as it does change quite drastically over a short distance here. And also a pretty good amount of rainfall out there towards like Idaho on the northern side here in western Montana. Now, if we do hop this over here to the main country, so throughout the next 3 days regarding precipitation, you can see that much of the country is going to be relatively dry. From the southwest all the way through the central plains, the Midwest, the Tennessee Valley here, as well as portions of the Ohio Valley in the mid-Atlantic, relatively clear for the next 3 days or so. It's really just the southeast here, the Pacific Northwest, that's really dealing with the precipitation over the next few days. Alrighty, so with all that rainfall that we are going to be getting across portions of the country, we do have an active flooding threat along with it. So for today, we do have ourselves a pretty decent risk for flooding across the Pacific Northwest. So the way that this works is that you have a scale that goes from level 1 to level 4. The higher the number, the more probability of flash flooding there is, with the dark green being at least a 5% chance for flooding, and the yellow being at least a 15% chance for flooding within a 25-mile radius of a given point. So we do have ourselves some areas of yellow, which is a level 2 out of 4 flooding threat, which, is a decent threat for flooding across areas here of Oregon, Washington State here in general. You can kind of see for the coastlines here of mostly just Oregon, we do have this level 1 threat, including areas like Coos Bay, I think it is, Newport, just riding up the coast here with that level 2 threat here overall. East of Portland, we also do have ourselves a level 2 threat as well for some areas in southwestern Washington here, mostly rural areas here for the most part in that level 2 threat. And then of course we have the overall just level 1 threat for flooding across the areas here in the dark green, with a little bit, going into extreme northwestern California in general. And we also do have a little risk here for flooding across areas like northern Idaho, northwestern Montana, a little bit of eastern Washington State here included as well. And across the rest of the country, we do not have any active flooding threat here for today. Now, with that being said, for tomorrow, we do have ourselves a little itty-bitty flooding threat here towards the regions of Miami and Fort Lauderdale, as we were looking on the expected rainfall accumulations, where we were seeing a good 2+ inches. There will be a little shot for flooding out across some of those regions of Miami towards like Fort Lauderdale, all the way up towards West Palm Beach here in general. Now, across the Pacific Northwest, again, we have another level 2 threat for areas here, mostly in rural locations here, here just kind of northeast of Portland, here in the state of Washington. A little bit of flooding is expected across, once again, Washington State and Oregon here for tomorrow as well. Some of those northern coastlines out by Oregon has the greatest potential for some flash flooding activity here. Then heading into Tuesday, we are looking relatively fine. Things finally die down across the region here in the Pacific Northwest. Here for Tuesday, we are not really expecting any flooding across the country, which is definitely some good news. Alright, everybody, hopping our way over here into the Climate Prediction Center outlook here, starting with the temperature forecast here from February 28th until March 4th. Now, as you guys can see across a lot of the central and western country, from the Midwest through the Great Plains and into the Rockies, we are expecting much above average temperatures here for this time of the year across those regions, so it'll definitely be a lot warmer across those areas. Now, towards the lower lower Ohio Valley, the lower Mid-Atlantic, the Tennessee Valley, and portions of the Southeast, we're going to be relatively near normal regarding those temperatures here, so not really a whole lot of differences for this time of the year across those regions. Now, once we work our way over here towards like the majority of Florida, as well as the upper Mid-Atlantic here in general, as well as the Northeast, we are going to be relatively below average regarding those temperatures, so things will be cooler across those regions for this time of the year. Okay, so shifting our way over here into the precipitation outlook for the same time period, once again from February 28th until March 4th, as you can see, a pretty good amount of the country is going to be possibly above average regarding precipitation here, so more storm activity will be possible for a lot of the country here, especially by the central southern plains and the eastern Rockies with the greatest probability overall. Areas by the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, and portions of the Southeast, as well as the Pacific Northwest will be relatively near normal regarding precipitation, but a pretty good chunk, especially in the central country, will be above average regarding precipitation here. This is definitely a big news for the Pacific Northwest. They've been very, very wet lately, seeing tons and tons of precipitation, so things will finally kind of come back to normal here for pretty much the end of this month into early March, which will definitely be pretty good for them. Alrighty, everybody, so now rolling our way over here into the extended range temperature outlook here from March 2nd until March 8th, we are talking basically near normal conditions, or near normal temperatures here across a lot of the central country into the southeast here in general, so things will be relatively normal regarding temperatures for early March. However, areas by the Mid-Atlantic, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast, as well as a lot of the west out here, will be actually below average, so cooler temperatures will be observed, likely across those regions here. Obviously, the greatest probability for below average temperatures represents the darker shades here, so in the upper Northeast has the greatest potential to be below average. And of course, as you guys probably noticed, we do have a little bit of above average temperatures expected throughout portions of like southern Texas, portions of New Mexico, and out there by Arizona, especially the eastern side, could be slightly above average regarding temperatures. And lastly, rolling our way over here into the extended range outlook here for precipitation, as you can see, once again, a lot of the country is going to be above average regarding precipitation. So just in general, from what we have seen here from the CPC, is that basically for the later portion of this month, working its way into early March, a lot of the country is going to be above average with precipitation. So there will be a lot more storm activity. So more storms possibly to track and whatnot. So stay tuned for that. But a lot of the country is going to be above average. Excluding some regions here, of course. Towards like the upper Midwest here, the Pacific Northwest being kind of near normal. But I'd say at least 80% of the country here is going to be possibly above average regarding precipitation here, once again from March 2nd until March 8th. Alright, everybody, so working our way over here into the models here, starting off with the American Long Range GFS model. So like we mentioned here, we do have a lot of precipitation that's falling across the south, which will track over Florida, and then of course work its way out here into the Atlantic. So a little bit of precipitation out there, as we already did go over. And in the Pacific Northwest, we do have all that precipitation that we're still seeing, upper elevation potential for snowfall, lower elevation here for a lot of rainfall, and that flooding potential we did go over. So now working our way down here into time, all of that will roll through. Things will finally calm down in the Pacific Northwest here right around the later portion of the 25th into the early 26th as high pressure once again builds into the region here. We might have a little disturbance here for the 26th here across the upper Midwest, maybe some snow, maybe some rain. Regardless, nothing significant really expected, and much of the country remaining fairly dry. So then we work our way here a little bit further down into time. Now, this is actually a storm system that we're going to be keeping an eye out there for. There is possibly a line of thunderstorms. As of now, not expected to be severe, but we'll go over this here in a few minutes here as well. But a line of storms could develop here across portions of the south, maybe towards like the Tennessee Valley and whatnot. So we'll keep an eye out there for that as another disturbance rolls through. And of course, maybe even some snowfall involved for the extreme northern portions here of the Northeast here in general. And really any time past this becomes a little bit too far to look at. For early March, maybe another little disturbance working its way down for the late portion of February. So here for the 28th across the upper Midwest into the Northeast here for March 1st. But yeah, anything really past this is just a little bit too far out to look. I only typically like to look about 5 days in advance, unless there is some serious agreement in the models. We will look a little further, but, regarding everything here, not really a whole lot going on, other than this little system coming through, which we'll talk more about that here right now. Okay, guys, so now we're taking a look here at still the same model, the GFS. However, we're looking at the amount of instability or potential thunderstorm fuel that could be in the atmosphere. So, at the current time period here, we do have a bit of instability across the south, a little bit of that thunderstorm risk that we were looking at earlier, especially when we went over the Storm Prediction Center outlook. You guys saw that there was a risk for thunderstorms, not severe weather, but still some thunderstorms across that region. So we work our way down in time, and all of that instability here for tomorrow will work its way across Florida, which will be driving the potential for some storms down there, as we once again did look at on the Storm Prediction Center. But one of the things I'm watching here is that as that kind of cold front rolls through, as that cold front does roll through and that line of storms potentially develops, there might be some forms of instability, not a lot, and I don't really think that there's going to be severe weather on it, but just don't be surprised if there could be some thunderstorm activity here for, right around the 27th or so, across portions here of the Tennessee Valley, into the lower Midwest and whatnot, where we could see the possibility here for some thunderstorm activity here in general. Now, when comparing this with the European model, the ECMWF, the instability is offset more to the southwest. So there is a little bit of uncertainty here in terms of where the instability could be. So in general, there could be some thunderstorm activity on that line of storms here right around the 26th or whatnot. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye out there for that. But, honestly, in the extended range here, at least within valid reach over the next couple of days, honestly, I really don't think we're going to be seeing any severe weather anytime soon. But, once again, we'll just keep an eye out there for it. A little bit of storm activity here cannot be ruled out. Alrighty, everybody, so that's going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you guys did enjoy it, consider leaving a like and hitting that subscribe button. It'll be greatly appreciated. If you guys would like to support us in getting a new computer, we do have our Venmo and our Cash App down below. Once again, we spilled a drink on our main computer we used to stream with, unfortunately, so we cannot really stream until we get a new computer. So if you guys would like to help contribute to that, it would be greatly appreciated. The one that we're running right now to make these videos is too old and it's very slow. Honestly, really only making videos is the thing I can do on this computer. So if you guys would like to help contribute, it would be greatly appreciated. And once we get our new computer built here, I will be giving you guys a huge shout out here, just as a special thanks for the people who do help contribute. So once again, everybody, thank you so much for joining. Once again, if you have not already, consider leaving a like, hitting that subscribe button. And alrighty, my friends, well, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, my friends. Catch y'all later on.